Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're driving into, well, frankly, one of the most demanding sectors out there, healthcare software development in 2025. This isn't just about writing code, it's really about building the very infrastructure of wellness. You see, healthcare organizations face this immense pressure, right? They need to modernize, bring in AI, cloud, all that. But at the same time, they absolutely have to protect patient safety and data integrity. It's a huge balancing act.
It really is. And sometimes those goals, modernization and safety, they feel like they're pulling in opposite directions. The stakes couldn't be higher. I mean, you, the listener, you're relying on these software vendors for everything. We're talking electronic health records, your EHRs, telemedicine platforms, the Internet of Medical Things, IoMT, all those connected devices popping up everywhere. And of course, the really cutting edge stuff like AI-driven diagnostics. It's finding that sweet spot, that balance between pushing innovation and meeting these incredibly strict non-negotiable regulations.
That's exactly our mission today. We're going to sift through our sources to figure out what really makes a software partner succeed in this environment and hopefully identify some vendors who are actually delivering solutions that are secure, that work together, interoperable, and crucially, resilient. Okay, let's unpack this. Because choosing a tech partner in healthcare, it's way more than just looking at a portfolio, right? Our sources lay out four basically non-negotiable criteria. These are the things that really separate the leaders.
Absolutely. And the first one, it's the absolute foundation, the baseline for any trust. Demonstrable compliance with healthcare regulations. You just can't play in the health tech space if compliance isn't baked into your DNA, so to speak. By design, we're talking things like HIPAA, obviously, for patient data in the U.S., GDPR for privacy, especially if you operate globally, SOC 2 for handling sensitive information securely, and specifically ISO IEC 27001.2022. That's the standard for certified security management. And critically, this isn't something you can just bolt on at the end. It has to be engineered in from the very beginning.
Right. Compliance is the baseline of trust. I like that. But, okay, if everyone has to be compliant just to get in the door, what separates the truly great partners once they've ticked those boxes? What's next?
That's a vital question. And it leads straight into criterion number 2, a proven track record, specifically in healthcare projects. Compliance shows you know the rules, sure, but the track record, that shows you know how to actually execute within those rules, navigating complex clinical workflows. We mean vendors who've successfully done complex integrations, maybe with major EHR platforms like Epic or Cerner. Vendors who've proven they can handle massive amounts of healthcare data for analytics, and really importantly, ensure interoperability in actual clinical settings. Experience is the proof here.
Which flows naturally into the tech itself. Criterion 3. Technical expertise. And this isn't just about, basic coding skills. It's about applying technology strategically. The leading vendors aren't just setting up a generic cloud server. They're optimizing cloud infrastructure specifically for healthcare's scalability needs. And they're leveraging advanced tools like AI, especially for things like clinical decision support, making doctors' lives easier, hopefully.
And the absolute backbone for making any of that advanced stuff work is smooth data exchange. So a critical technical detail here is deep expertise in interoperability frameworks. We really need to mention HL7 and increasingly FHIR. These are the standards, the languages that let different hospital systems, labs, devices actually talk to each other in a structured way. Without that common ground, all the valuable data just stays locked up in silos. Useless.
And, when we talk about AI transforming care, it's not some far-off future thing. It's happening right now. Our sources highlighted a great quote from Gary Fritz. He's the VP and Chief of Applications over at Stanford Healthcare. He said, and I'm quoting here, "All the applications in our portfolio will ultimately have an AI model. It's inevitable." Pretty strong statement.
It really is. And that quote perfectly captures the shift. The real power of AI in healthcare, at least right now, isn't about replacing clinicians. Not at all. It's about building these incredibly sophisticated predictive models that can inform the physician, take some of the cognitive load off, reduce administrative burden. Ultimately, it's about improving the quality and hopefully the personalization of care, supporting the humans, not replacing them.
Okay, that brings us to the final criterion, number 4. And this one I think often gets overlooked, the delivery model. Healthcare clients aren't monolithic. You've got tiny, lean medtech startups trying to build something fast. And then you have massive hospital systems undertaking these huge multi-year legacy modernization projects, very different needs.
Completely different. So a top vendor needs that flexibility. They need agility, the ability to do rapid builds for, say, a startup's MVP, But they also need the discipline, the robust governance, the heavy documentation, the certified processes required for those huge enterprise deployments. They need to be adaptable in how they engage, how they structure teams, maybe globally. It's about matching the model to the client's reality. All right, so that's a pretty demanding scorecard we've laid out. Now let's get into who's actually delivering on these fronts in the market today. Here's where it gets really interesting. We're synthesizing what our sources say about some of the current leaders. And this isn't about ranking them like number one, number two. It's more about illustrating the sheer breadth of specialized expertise needed out there. It's a fragmented market, definitely. Let's maybe start with vendors known for compliance and that big enterprise focus, the ones specializing in reducing risk for large, complex organizations. Sciencesoft comes up frequently here. They're seen as a very trusted choice for projects where compliance is paramount, because they hold not just ISO 27001 for security, but also ISO 13485. And that's the big one, the international standard, specifically for medical device software quality management. Their whole process is built around safety.
Right. That ISO 13485 is critical for device makers. And then maybe contrasting that slightly, you have a company like iTransition. Their sweet spot seems to be those really large-scale IT modernization projects. We're talking hospitals, payers, life sciences companies. They excel at ripping out those old creaky legacy systems and putting in modern, scalable architectures, big, complex transformations.
Exactly. Then you shift gears and look at the specialized innovators. These are the vendors often driving development for newer, more focused health technologies. Glorium Tech, for example, really stands out because they seem to concentrate on supporting medtech startups and biotech firms. They often deal with the nitty-gritty of IoMT device integrations, maybe navigating the software side of clinical trials, very specific needs.
And then you have the data specialists, companies like Elex. They're known specifically for building sophisticated predictive analytics tools and healthcare data platforms. So if your main goal is using data to drive measurable outcomes, like, say, reducing hospital readmission rates or optimizing how resources are used, you'd look for a firm like Elex with that kind of innovation culture around data.
And it's also important to remember the value of the more agile boutique approach. Not every healthcare project needs a giant systems integrator. Somatosoft seems to position itself as exactly that, a nimble vendor for custom builds. They're particularly noted for being quick with bespoke solutions built on FHIR, getting that data flowing fast for specific use cases.
Which leads to a really important strategic point, I think. Consider a firm like InnoWise. Our sources describe them as like a flexible, maybe more cost-efficient challenger. They specialize in IoMT platforms and rapid prototyping. They might be perfect for an early-stage medtech company that needs compliant software built quickly, but doesn't need or can't afford the huge overhead of an enterprise-focused firm like iTransition. This variety really shows it's not one-size-fits-all. You need the partner whose specialization truly matches your stage and your specific type of complexity.
Absolutely. And that realization pushes the decision beyond just comparing feature lists or ticking boxes. It moves into strategic alignment. Choosing a software partner in healthcare, that decision echoes for years. It has long-term consequences. So you really have to evaluate factors that go way beyond just the initial price tag or a glossy portfolio.
You mentioned specialization earlier, and it's worth hammering that point home. The depth required is just different in healthcare. Building, a typical e-commerce website is absolutely not the same challenge as integrating software with Epic or Cerner, or using HL7 and FHIR correctly to exchange sensitive patient data securely. The complexity is just orders of magnitude higher.
It really is. That genuine depth of experience, it shows up in how a vendor talks about clinical workflows, how they discuss patient safety protocols, how they anticipate and navigate regulatory hurdles. They need to speak the language of the doctors, the nurses, the administrators, and the compliance officers, not just tech jargon.
Another huge factor is pragmatism in delivery. This is where that tension we talked about, speed versus safety, gets very real. Healthcare projects always live in that space between intense cost pressure and the absolute need for safety and reliability. So a really capable vendor finds that balance. They can move fast on prototypes, on minimum viable products using lean methods, but they also have the discipline. They know where they absolutely cannot cut corners on validation, on documentation, on security testing. They know when it's okay to experiment and, more importantly, when they must slow down to ensure every safety check is rigorously done.
And achieving that balance requires enormous transparency from the vendor side. Real reliability means they scope projects thoroughly from the start. They warn you, the client, about potential regulatory risks or technical roadblocks up front. And crucially, they have a track record of actually delivering within budget, avoiding those nasty surprises and hidden costs that can derail a project late in the game.
That transparency is tied directly to cultural and communication fit, isn't it? Healthcare projects involve such diverse stakeholders. You've got clinicians with deep domain knowledge, but maybe less tech understanding. You've got administrators focused on budget and operations. You've got compliance officers focused purely on risk and regulation.
Exactly. A strong vendor partner acts as a bridge between those worlds. They have to be skilled at translating complex technical trade-offs, like, why choose this database architecture over that one, into clear business language that everyone understands, so that doctors, admins, compliance folks, everyone stays aligned. That kind of collaboration maturity is just as vital as raw engineering skill. And that brings us, finally, to the highest level. True strategic alignment. Look, less capable vendors, they just build features according to a spec sheet. They deliver code. The right partner, the strategic partner, helps you build long-term platforms. Platforms designed to evolve as your organization's strategy evolves. They should be challenging your assumptions sometimes, asking uncomfortable questions about, say, future merger plans or potential shifts in regulations, and then designing the systems with that future flexibility in mind. That is how you actually future-proof a massive multi-million-dollar software investment.
So, wrapping this all up, what does this deep dive mean for you? The health tech landscape in 2025 is, well, it's incredibly demanding, no doubt about it. Regulations are shifting constantly, patient expectations keep rising, and the cost of getting it wrong financially and, more importantly, in terms of patient outcomes is just immense. I think the key takeaway here is that your investment in healthcare software needs to be resilient. It has to hold up against inevitable change. The vendors really worth partnering with probably aren't the ones shouting about the lowest price or showing off the flashiest prototype built in a week.
No, they're the ones who demonstrably balance that speed with real discipline, who combine certified compliance with genuine adaptability. They bring deep, verifiable domain experience and a strategic vision that aligns with your long-term goals for the platform. Ultimately, choosing a partner is about future-proofing your entire operation, your ability to deliver care safely and effectively. It's not just about coding one specific solution for today. And that leads us with a final thought, maybe something for you to mull over. In today's really volatile environment, what aspect of resilience is actually the most pressing concern for your organization's long-term strategy right now? Is it regulatory resilience, being ready for new international rules? Or is it technological resilience, being adaptable enough for the next wave of AI or other innovations? Something to consider.